helped us on the way.
It's our business to put people into homes. It's our business to get people onto the first rung of the housing market. It's not our concern to speculate what the house prices will be next year or the year after that. We act for the present, and that's what we were doing last year. And because of that, last year we were able to put 900 people into homes.
Did you believe then that prices were sustainable at the peak to which they rose last year?
Well, we're not speculators at all.
But did you not take any cognizance of the fact that prices rose to levels that were much higher than the rest of the UK on average, higher than Wales, higher than Scotland, higher than most parts of England? And on that basis, why did you not reckon there was a real risk they could fall back?
Well, everyone was in the same boat in terms of what house prices were doing at that particular time. The bankers, building societies, estate agents, all were coping and grappling with what was happening in the housing market. We were no different.
Co-ownership committed itself to so much last year to helping hard-pressed couples and individuals buy homes, they can't make any promises to assist new applicants this year. It was last March they brought down the shutters. No more applications. In fact, they will need to access private finance to deal with the 250 whose cases are already on their books.
The withdrawal of co-ownership was a devastating blow, as it was the only lifeline left for first-time buyers. And you know, the impact of that is now that a lot of couples have been sitting in limbo for the last 4 to 5 months, totally unsure as to whether they will get their home, and the result is you've got a lot of shattered dreams out there of people getting onto the property ladder.
When do you expect to be open for business?
That's difficult to say. We're working at the moment through this current year attempting to provide funding for the pipeline which we have. We can't at this time project when we'll be open for new business.
Is it possible that you won't be able to take any new applications this year, this financial year?
That could be a possibility, but at this point we're not able to say.
If first-time buyers can't access co-ownership or get a mortgage, that has consequences for the whole housing market. Builders can't find purchasers, chains of buying and selling break down, less demand forces prices lower. It's a downward spiral that's hard to break out of.
Well, calling the bottom of the market is in many ways even more difficult than calling the top of the market 12 months ago. Certainly, we would be of the view that we're not yet at the bottom of the market. The last 6 months of 2008 are probably going to be at least as bad as the first 6 months. And probably the most likely outcome is a further 10, maybe 15% fall in overall prices.
I think there is a risk that having overshot on the way up, there is a risk that house prices could overshoot on the way down. I think the risks to prices in the short term are still to fall. I think we're still in a situation which really the market is bereft of confidence. There's a lot of uncertainty over valuations. And I think, as we know, that in housing markets and in residential markets, it's not just a question of rational thinking. Sometimes people act with the heart as well as the head. And at the moment, I suspect we still have a negative psychology.
House prices have dropped back to where they were a year ago. That means that anyone who bought since then has paid too much. Tens of thousands now live in homes which aren't worth what they paid for them. That will encourage those householders to cut back their general spending. But many more who have seen the value of their homes fall will also be tempted to reduce their outgoings.
Certainly we can already see some impacts in the wider economy. The construction sector finding it quite difficult. And retailers are starting to make noises that the turnover and footfall is dropping away slightly. Some of that's to do with rising prices, but there's certainly an element of that is to do with people's fear that perhaps the assets that they own, and houses being the primary one, are not worth what they once were.
Ultimately, confidence will return and the market will bottom out. But what is that new floor, and more importantly, how will we recognise it? Long-time developer Dennis Forsyth has a controversial prediction. He reckons the value of a standard semi in Lisburn, once selling for £220,000, will fall by over a third.
We are saying that particular type of house will fall back to about 140,000. That is my judgment, mind you. It hasn't reached that yet, but we feel that that would be a benchmark to set and to stop the slippage.
Do you think that builders can create homes and make a profit selling them at that price?
Well, I think everything's relevant, and I think the land price comes into play there. It has a big impact on the cost of the homes that are being built at the moment. I think that is something that is creating another difficulty.
What price would land need to fall back to here in Lisburn to allow builders to sell at the prices you're talking about?
I think land will have to fall till about £350,000 an acre.
And what is it currently?
The last land I heard that was sold was about £1 million an acre.
What Dennis Forsyth is arguing for is in effect already happening. In many parts of Northern Ireland, land has plummeted in price. Its cost has fallen far faster than that of homes. The price of building land is down at least a third in the Greater Belfast area, but even more in quiet towns and villages.
You had land in very, very marginal village settlements making almost as much as a town that had 50, 60,000 of a population. I'm very aware of very marginal places making $1 million an acre, and I guess now it's back 60, 70%.
The crisis facing the market is compounded by the failure of some to wake up to new realities.
I'm afraid there's still a lot of don't want to accept where the market is at the minute, and that's part of the problem.
Do you think people are in denial about the realities?
Denial is the word. They still are, and the market will have no sympathy for anyone who doesn't recognise it. And ultimately, where there's maybe a lot of patience at the moment in terms of land, I think sooner or later things will break, and I think there's going to be a few casualties. But having said that, Northern Ireland is a small marketplace, and the number of casualties, relatively speaking, mightn't be that many, but there needs to be a few. There probably will be a few casualties.
When you talk about casualties in plain man's language, will some people just go bust?
In simple logic, and if someone has paid over $1 million an acre for land in peripheral areas and it's only now maybe worth half or less, it doesn't take a mathematical genius to work out what happens.
There were many last year who refused to accept we were witnessing a bubble in the housing market. Now, just about everybody acknowledges a so-called correction in prices is taking place. But there are grounds for believing the downturn may be more severe than that. It's just possible we're in the throes of a property crash. Maybe the first ever seen in Northern Ireland.